Hey, welcome everyone. It is so great to see you and hear from you again. So for the next about 20 minutes, we're going to focus on one thing that's going to make everything easier or unnecessary. So what is it that I'm going to be talking about today? Well, I'm going to be talking about the truths that we believe in. And something that has become quite clear, many people every year, they see little progress. They do so much work, but they get little progress because they're operating from a limiting belief. And it's something that they rarely question. They just believe this is the truth. I have this limiting belief and I cannot do anything with it. So when I start looking deeper into it, it actually goes almost to a point where what we believe in, that limiting belief, it's actually going to determine what we are going to attempt in life, what we're going to avoid in life, or what we're going to tolerate in life. And the big thing here is, how do we change that? What's that one belief that if you changed it, it would actually result in your life almost shifting immediately? That's what I want to jump into today. And it's something that really can take you to a very simplistic method. So we always want to achieve extraordinary results. We want to eliminate these limiting beliefs. So when we look at extraordinary results, in fact, they actually come from doing a lot less than you actually think. You see, there was a little, call it a principle. It's called Pareto's principle, that 80-20 principle. And it actually states to us that you do less items, more focused less items will actually achieve much greater success. And that actually then leads us to thinking, well, not everything in our life actually truly matters. And I know that you're probably looking at me and going, hey, Stuart, no. Everything matters. Everything's important. Well, no, everything actually doesn't matter equally. All right. There are certain things that are more important than others, but when we actually start to look at them and we put them on a paper, we can actually identify that there's one or two of them that have a higher level of priority over the something else. And really what happens is when we focus on everything, the 80% that we tend to focus on, those actually end up being distractions. And those distractions actually starts to dilute our progress. And more importantly, those distractions is what keeps our limiting belief center front of mind. So we need to get rid of all of those. We really need to push them to one side and actually say, you know what, distractions can go on that piece of paper that it's at the bottom of the pile. But the 20%, the priorities, they need to go on top of the pile. And that's what we really need to start focusing on. When we can start eliminating the limiting belief that we have that we can succeed, well, let me tell you something. The truth that we actually believe in that we can do, we start to achieve it. So I'm pretty sure you're saying, that's great, Stuart. But how? How can we implement something that can actually help us to push those limiting beliefs to one side so that we can start focusing and moving forward? Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I'm going to share with you 3 tips, 3 points that you can actually implement right away. They are so straightforward. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but once you start to actually see the benefit in them, it'll actually start to become part of you as an individual as you're going forward. And that's what I'm hoping you can do so that the truth that's really in your head that you're wanting to succeed actually becomes a reality. That's the key to all of this. So the first one, what we really need to do is we need to replace, and here's in quoted words, everything matters with priority thinking. All right. So that's the very first thing that we need to do. We need to replace that thought that every single thing in front of you matters with priority thinking. Okay. So how do we actually go about in doing that? Well, one of the key things is in order for us to identify our priorities, we need to know where we're heading towards. We need to know those particular goals. We need to know, what does it look like for us in a week, a month, 6 months, a year, 3, 5, 10, someday. We need to know what that looks like, because that gives us this lighthouse that we can start heading towards. And then it's a simple question. Well, the actions that I'm doing today, are they moving me closer to that particular lighthouse, closer to that particular goal, or are they moving me further away? And you can even do it when you're doing an activity. Sit down while you're doing the activity and say, hey, if I do this activity right now, is it going to get me close to the goal, or is it going to move me further away? If it's moving you further away, guess what? It becomes a distraction. And does that really matter to be done right now? Yes, it's got to be done, but does it need to be done right now? Could that be pushed to one side and the priority tasks done first, the ones that's going to get you closer to those goals? You see, when you get into this realm of actually identifying and replacing everything that matters with a priority thinking, you're going to be starting to see what you're doing every single day. And when you can start identifying, hey, I'm actually not doing what I should be doing, you're going to actually start to make these changes that helps you to actually move forward. And there is a little phrase that we use within the one thing. When we start to identify our priority tasks, we actually say to ourselves, until my one thing is complete, everything else is secondary. All right. Until my one thing is complete, everything else is secondary. Not deleted, but secondary, which means I need to finish it first. That one thing, those are your priority tasks that moves you closer. That's that 20%. We sometimes refer to it as the big rock that's not going to move. Everything must go around it. That's the importance. So the first tip is actually replacing that everything matters with a priority thinking process. And that you can do straight away. In fact, you can do it right now. You can actually say, is this session a priority thinking? And I want to say, yes, it is, because it's going to help you to start stepping forward. And that's just the smile on my face. So let me give you the second. And the second is really one that I have when I do my live sessions. I actually use this one and people get very frustrated with me. But multitasking. Come on, guys. Multitasking. And I'm hoping that you're not guilty of the one that's driving in the early morning traffic, having breakfast, maybe putting on makeup, doing your hair, maybe, and I'm not assuming that it's only females. I've seen guys do it as well, on your phone, and you're basically in a manual. So you're changing gears and you're going through traffic and you're doing everything at the same time just to get to the office on time. Or you basically have everything open. You've got your mobile phone open. You've got your computer open. You've got a TV open. You've got everything. You see, ultimately, multitasking is something that we need to abandon. We need to get rid of multitasking and replace it with focused tasks. Things that we're doing one thing at a time. You see, success is actually sequential. It's not done simultaneously. We always think that we can actually achieve everything if we do so much at the same time. You see, the truth of multitasking, it's actually a marketing term that was actually developed way back when PCs came out. Because PCs were operating at such high speed, to the human, it appeared that it was doing multiple tasks at the same time. But if you actually broke it down and actually looked at it, it was doing one task at a time, over time, but at an extremely high speed. So what actually happens when you multitask? Well, I want you to think of this. When you're actually going and you're reading an email and you go through the first paragraph, and this is an important email from a client, so you really need to understand exactly what they're requiring. You're reading that email, and then suddenly your phone, it goes ping. So what do? You stop reading the email, you have a look at your phone, and then you suddenly realize, oh, it's my child. They just wanted to know what's for dinner. And you think, well, okay, and you respond to it. Well, yes. And then you go back to your email. Now, here's the question. Do you continue reading from where you stopped, or do you go back to the beginning? And I can almost assume every single time you're going to go back to the beginning of that email and you're going to reread the paragraph You might skim read it, but you're going to reread that paragraph and then go on to the second paragraph to understand it because you want to be immersed in this particular email. Now, here's the problem. What we're actually doing is we're creating what we refer to as a switch. You see, a switch is when we are focused on one task and then we move to another task. There's a time factor, that switch that actually happens. Now, what happens with that switch is it actually starts to add time. Now, if we multitask and you have a look at all the times that you switch, rereading that paragraph, yes, it's only 10 seconds. But add that up over the day. When you're multitasking and switching between various tasks, how long does it take you to get back into that task where you are purely focused again? You'll find that it is a little bit of an overlap, but you're starting to eat into time. In fact, studies have shown that it actually wastes nearly 25% of our day when we switch tasks. So what do we need to do? We need to abandon the multitasking and actually start protecting that focused time. So when we're reading an email, read it from start to finish. It's important. Conclude it. Once you've concluded it, then move on to the next task. You see, all our tasks needs to become sequential, not multitasking where we're switching between all of them. You see, we want to make sure that we can accelerate our growth. We want to accelerate that momentum of achieving all of these different tasks that gets us closer to our goals. And when we are actually multitasking, what we're doing is we're adding more time in between these different tasks. And ultimately, we're just delaying the time it takes to achieve that particular outcome or that goal. So we need to then remove the multitasking and just focus. And something amazing is going to happen. You're going to actually find that you're going to be ending up working less hours in the day, but producing a much higher level of productivity. Try it. You'll see what I'm talking about. So that's the second one. Abandon the multitasking and actually start to protect that actual focus time so that you can go forward. The third one is one where I know so many people, they love the discipline of going to gym. They love the discipline of life. But the truth of it is, discipline in itself is something that is temporary. All right. It's not something that we can have on a continual basis. What we really need to do is we need to build habits instead. You see, discipline requires the energy, the self-motivation, the drive to go out and do it. I use gym as the example because at the beginning of the year, you have the discipline to go to gym. You have the discipline to make sure that you're there 3 days a week for an hour. Then the second week comes in and you know what? My body is stiff. So that discipline tends to go down a little bit. And then it hits the third week and we're going, you know what? I've got an appointment. Twice a week is more than sufficient. And then you hit the end of the first month, hitting into the second month, once a week is great. That's discipline that we're trying to hold. You see, discipline is almost like the battery within our mobile phones. Over time, it gets depleted. And when the battery is really, really depleted, our motivation level to do something is rather low. So what we need to do is we replace it with habits. What do we do with habits? Well, habits, we make sure that they are small. We make sure that there's something that's repeatable, something that's done every single day, something that doesn't require a huge amount of energy to do, something that when we're doing it every single day, that habit becomes autonomous. It actually becomes almost like we go on autopilot and we're doing it all the time. So I use the example, I used to check my emails at 7 o'clock for 15 minutes every single morning. And in the beginning, I felt like it needed the discipline to check my emails. Well, no, I just added it into my calendar. It would pop up and I'll go, oh, I need to check my emails. I'll check my emails. 15 minutes done, off by 7, I'm on to my next task. And that actually then just became a habit so that I did not go through my entire day saying I need to check my emails all the time because those were distractions. Those broke the tasks that I was trying to achieve in a particular day. So we need to make sure that we create habits that are consistent. And as I said, they need to be small. They need to be repeatable. repeatable little behavioral practices that we can do each and every day. And once we start getting those built, they become these small, and obviously using another term, they become small atomic habits. So small that they will grow and grow and grow. And once you get to that point where they actually become part of you, it's almost like breathing. You're going to find how you start moving forward. But remember, what are those habits? Well, we need to make sure that they're actually priorities. They are the 20%. They are the big rocks. We need to break them down into those small little actionable steps and then just put them into place and just repeat them every single day. You see, once we start doing all of these little actions, once we actually replace everything matters with priority thinking, when we actually start to abandon those multitasks with the protected focus times, and we say no more discipline, what we want is building habits instead, what we're actually going to find is we're going to start to create this life that we want by design because we're in control of it. And what happens is the truths that we start to believe in are the truths of actually achieving these small habits every single day. And they start to build momentum. And it's this momentum that helps you to start moving forward. You see, a great quote that I actually picked up: success isn't about doing the right thing, not about doing everything right. So success is about doing the right thing, not about doing everything right. So this is a key that I want you to actually take away. So the big question that I'm going to leave you with, and it's, which belief about success or productivity might be silently holding you back right now? So what change can you make? Just remember, before we go off today, learning creates awareness. Actions create results. So I want you to put what I've shared with you today. Find just one thing that I shared. Put it into your calendar, schedule it, and do it, because it's those actions that's going to create results. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next session. You've been listening to The One Thing Guy. Remember, when you focus on what matters most, everything changes. See you next time.